The university chancellor enters the auditorium where a lecture about genetic engineering occurs. A young teacher is drawing graphics and diagrams on the whiteboard, and students are redrawing them in their laptops. The chancellor knows that some of these students are not listening to the teacher. He walks around the audience and stands behind all the people. Who do you think is not focused on studying? All students are typing the formulas on their laptops. That girl over there is solving a crossword puzzle on her computer. Detective Richardson is chasing a robber dressed in a clown's outfit. The thief runs into the territory of a big carnival. There are a lot of clowns here. Help find the suspect among them. Catch that guy! His makeup is leaking since he's sweating after running. Also, he is the only one among all the clowns who took off the red nose, since he needs to take a deep breath. Angelica gets out of the elevator and goes to her room. She puts a magnetic card to the lock to open the door. Then, she turns on a kettle and a TV. At this moment, the phone rings. Angelica picks it up.
Hello, it's your neighbor from the opposite apartment. I'm looking at someone trying to break into your house right now.
A voice on the other end of the line says,
He's trying to pick your lock with a lockpick.
I'm sorry, it seems you've called the wrong number, Angelica tells him and hangs up. Why did she think that? Her door has a magnetic lock. Howard got stuck on a deserted island after an emergency landing on his biplane. He had no fuel and no means of communication. He spent the last few nights building a raft from bamboo. He also sewed sails from the parachute, and now Howard is sailing away from the shore. At this moment, a storm begins. Waves and strong winds carry the small raft further from land, right into the center of the storm. And then Howard notices a ship. He's screaming for help, but a big wave turns the ship over. There's no chance of salvation. The raft sinks next, and Howard loses consciousness. He wakes up on the island again, surrounded by the ship's wreckage. Howard looks around and starts yelling with happiness. It seems he's saved. Why? There are fuel cans among the wreckage. Howard can refuel his biplane and fly away from this place. There's a secret helicopter hangar hidden among trees at the edge of the forest. A squirrel got stuck on the ceiling between the beams. Johnny, the woodcutter, comes inside and notices the poor animal. He's going to rescue it, but he doesn't know how to get there. There are no stairs or anything that can be used to climb so high. Help him save the squirrel. There's an open vent on the ceiling. Johnny can get to the squirrel through the roof, but how? The hangar is located among the trees. Johnny can climb a tree and jump on the roof. The premiere of some fantastic movie about graffiti culture was held at one local cinema. Some of the viewers liked it so much that they painted the wall of the building. The police caught 3 suspects. But who's guilty? Look at this girl with blue hair. She has paint on her fingers. Leo, Brad, and Chris walk in the park and tell each other how they spent the weekend. All the guys look rich and successful, but in fact, only one of them is wealthy. Look at them carefully and try to guess who. It's Brad. See the advertising banner of a new action movie hanging on a skyscraper in the distance? Brad's face is on it. Linda comes out of the library. She doesn't notice the curb ahead, stumbles over it, and breaks the heel of her shoe. She calls a taxi and goes to the city center. There's a street with many fashionable boutiques. Linda doesn't know which store to go to. The best shoes in town, the sign on the first building says. The best shoes in the country is written on the second boutique. The best shoes on the continent, the sign on a fashion house lights up. The best shoes on the planet is written on the next one. Linda moves on. The best shoes in the solar system. The best shoes in the galaxy. The best shoes in the universe. Then she notices a small shop at the end of the street. Linda chooses that one without hesitation. What was written there? The best shoes on this street. Roy is sitting in the classroom listening to two teachers. They're saying essential mathematical formulas to prepare students for upcoming exams. Roy is writing down their words, but he doesn't keep up with the teachers. His hand hurts more and more. The notebook is running out of pages. The teacher's speech is accelerating. They're saying a lot of new information. Ah! How can Roy remember all of this? Help him! He needs to use the voice recorder on his phone. The plane takes off from the airport. A flight attendant walks through the cabin and sees two passengers arguing. The crew member asks what happened. Jay says that Courtney took his place. Courtney claims that this is her seat. They showed their tickets to the flight attendant. She tells them that the program couldn't sell two identical seats. She takes their boarding passes and immediately understands what the mistake is. Look at the tickets and tell who's right here. Seat 14F is written on both documents. Jay's takeoff time is 2:57 a.m. Courtney's is 2:57 p.m. It was sunny when the plane took off. Also, the sun is shining outside the window, so Jay's got on the wrong flight. Alexis runs at the stadium every day, preparing for an athletics championship. And it starts today. Alexis warms up and notices a skinny guy among other runners. His legs look weak and thin. Is he gonna run? Alexis wonders. All participants get up to the starting position. 3, 2, 1, go! Alexis is running as fast as she can. She's in the lead, and that guy runs much faster and doesn't look tired. He wins. But how did he do it? Alexis realizes he's not a real athlete. He's not even a human. But how did she know that? The guy doesn't sweat, he doesn't blink, and he has two left hands. It's raining. Mike tries to walk fast so as not to freeze. His 3 goats are following him. He comes out to the river and notices a raft on the shore, but it can only withstand 1 goat and 1 human at a time. A tiger is sitting on the other side of the river. Mike can't sail with 1 goat and leave it with the tiger. What should he do to cross the river? There's no need to cross the river this way. Look, there's a bridge far ahead. There's a house right in the middle of the hottest desert. There is no water, trees, or villages around. 4 people live inside the building: the owner and his friends, an archaeologist, an oil worker, and a surveyor. The owner comes to the backyard and sees an empty jug. "Who's drunk all the water? We don't have any supplies anymore," he screams loudly. All the friends are in shock too. "Those who did that should go to the desert and get some water," he says.
"I was excavating in front of the house. I didn't touch the jug,"
the archaeologist replies. "I extracted oil under the house. I didn't touch the water," the oil worker says. "I was wandering through the desert in search of an underground river or lake, but I haven't found anything. There's no point in sending us there. You know, I think you've drunk it," the surveyor answers. "What do you think? Who's guilty?" Nobody. The jug was outside. The hot sand and the scorching sun dried it up. Dr. Phil works in a laboratory for the study of microorganisms. He's sitting in his office, reading a new scientific article. At this moment, someone knocks on the door. It's a young laboratory assistant. He looks scared and says he's met a real monster. "It has several mouths, long tentacles, and 1 claw," the guy says. He locked it in the lab. Dr. Phil goes there to see it with his eyes. He turns the key in the lock. The door is opening slowly with a cracking sound. The doctor steps inside and... nothing. There's complete silence here. There's no monster. Or is there? Where do you think it is? The monster is microscopic, sitting in the test tube. This is a laboratory for the study of microorganisms, remember? One old head of a large financial company is going to retire, but who will be his heir? Who will be able to manage such a huge corporation? He's calling an emergency meeting. All employees gather in the conference room. The boss gives $100 to each of them.
That's all I had when I arrived in this city for the first time. But I used this money wisely and became rich,
he says.
Who can use this banknote best of all will get the head position in the company. You have 2 weeks.
At the appointed time, all the employees return to the conference room. Someone invested the money in startups. Someone bought shares from other companies. One guy just spent the $100 in a restaurant. Some smart people earned thousands of dollars. There were many worthy candidates, but none of them became the head of the company. Why? The reason is not related to money. The old boss passed away.
Louis returns home after sunbathing on a beach. He turns on the stove to make an omelet. Sometime later, while he's having breakfast, someone knocks on his door. Several men introduce themselves as maintenance workers. They tell Louis about a gas leak in his apartment and ask him to evacuate immediately. Louis slams the door in their faces and calls the police. He's sure these guys are thieves. Why would Louis think that? He fried his eggs on the electric stove, not a gas one. Thieves wanted to lure him out of his apartment and steal his stuff. 6 people got stuck on a desert island. They know a helicopter will arrive in a few hours, but they need to eat something now. They have a pot, a bottle of fresh water, and 5 potatoes. They cook them and are about to have dinner. But first, they need to divide 5 potatoes of different sizes and shapes among 6 people. And the food should be distributed equally. How can they do it? Easy. They should just prepare mashed potatoes. One famous film director loved it when people spoke about him, even if it was something negative. Once, he made a terrible movie. The man wanted people to hate it. Critics and viewers called his movie bad, unacceptable, ridiculous, and embarrassing every day. And the director enjoyed it. A couple of years later, in an interview, he asked a journalist, So, what do you think about my latest movie? The journalist replied shortly, but his answer offended the director. What did the journalist say? I don't remember it. 3 girls met in a cozy restaurant to discuss an upcoming party. Jessica ordered a lot of food. Sarah asked for cherry juice. Lucy took an apple out of her bag and started eating it. The waiter brought the juice and the ordered food and left. Sarah started sipping her drink from the glass, but Jessica didn't touch her meal at all. Someone's not human. But who? It's the waiter. Did you see that his hands were covered with scales and his pupils looked like those of a snake? A traveler is walking through a dense Amazon jungle. He's looking for a unique artifact that once belonged to an ancient tribe. If his mission is successful, he'll sell his find for millions of dollars. He comes out of the jungle into a wide clearing and sees 2 caves. They're both filled with traps, but only one of them contains the treasure. The traveler's sure he'll be able to deal with all the dangers, but only if he chooses the right cave. Which cave should he opt for? The right cave. See, the entrance is overgrown with cobwebs. This means that no one's been there for a very long time. All the other treasure hunters entered the left cave, and they never came back. Mark's friends invited him to a picnic. He arrived at the place, walked around the house, and saw a group of 8 people. None of them was his friend. It was the wrong house. Before leaving, Mark noticed that 3 people in that group were androids. Can you spot them? That guy is pouring a drink from a gasoline container. Smoke is coming out of this elderly lady's head because of a short circuit. And this girl is charging her phone through a cable connected to her neck. After a shipwreck, Jack found himself on a desert island. He built a raft and equipped it with small sails that he took from the ruined ship. Jack couldn't sail far from the shore because there was no wind. A few days later, he noticed a ship. It was approaching the island, but its wind-filled sails were facing the opposite direction. According to the laws of physics, it should be sailing away from the island. Besides, there was no wind. So how is it possible that the ship was getting closer to the shore? The ship was equipped with a motor. Richard is walking through the forest barefoot because some monkeys have stolen his shoes. He's cold and hungry. Fortunately, he spots a hut. Smoke is coming out of the chimney, and light is shining through the windows. 3 paths lead to the house. The first is covered with red-hot coals, and there are loads of rusty nails on the second one. And the third path is littered with broken glass. Yikes! Which way should Richard choose? It's cold, so Richard can wait until the coals cool down. And while he's waiting, he can warm up next to them. Toby has been wandering through the desert for several hours. The sun's burning his neck. There's nothing but hot sand around. He's run out of all the water he had. Toby gets weaker and weaker, and finally, he falls down. At this moment, he sees 2 tiny ponds. Toby only has enough strength to get to one of them. Which of these ponds is a mirage, and which is real? The left pond is real. See the clouds above it? It rained there, and the rainwater formed the pond. At the edge of the forest, quite far from the village, there was an old house. Its owner found his TV broken in the morning. Someone had smashed the screen. The owner called everyone who had been in the house that night: a cook, a cleaning lady, and a lawyer. "Who broke my TV?" the man asked. "I was cooking dinner. I didn't touch anything," the cook said. "I was cleaning the basement," the cleaning lady answered. "I was upstairs. I spent the whole night studying the documents," the lawyer replied. One of them is lying. Who is it? The lawyer. He said he was upstairs, but it's a 1-story house. He couldn't be studying the documents on the roof all night. Tom has lost his car keys. He's searched every corner in every room, but hasn't found them. The guy goes to the farthest room, looks at the floor, and realizes the keys are hanging on the chandelier. How does Tom know that? The floor is reflective. An elderly philosophy teacher began an exam. His students were sitting in their seats, listening to him.
"Here's a task for you. Prove that everything that happens around me is real, and I'm not sleeping. Whoever writes the most convincing proof will get the highest points."
The students had been writing for several hours, but almost no one got a good grade, except for one girl. She wrote an essay consisting of several words. What did she put on paper? You can't read this if you're asleep. By the way, you can use this tip while sleeping. It's almost impossible to read anything in a dream. Therefore, to find out whether you're asleep or not, look at your phone and try to read something. There was an old haunted house in town. Local people were afraid to go there, but one day, 3 girls and 2 boys decided to check that place out and record whatever was happening there. They approached the scary building, but one guy, Rob, refused to come in. He said he would wait for his friends outside. The rest of the group went into the house. Rob was nervous. After waiting for them for a few minutes, he was ready to call someone for help. But all 4 girls and 1 boy returned at this moment. Rob realized there were ghosts in the house and ran away from there. How did he know that? Three girls and 1 boy were in the house, but 5 people came out. 1 girl was a spirit. Rob saw her and ran away. Michael is walking along the sidewalk, holding his hands behind his back. A car appears from around the corner behind him. At this moment, Michael is walking near a big puddle. The driver accelerates. He's going to splash the water all over Michael. But at the last moment, he suddenly slows down and drives around the puddle. Why didn't he drench Michael? Michael was carrying a brick behind his back. The driver was afraid that Michael would throw it at his car, so he didn't drive over the puddle. Alexandra is walking around an old castle. There are lots of portraits of kings and queens on the walls. The corridor is lit by candles. Alexandra goes down to the first floor, where several people are dancing. The girl feels as if she has somehow traveled to the previous century. But wait a minute, this is all fake. How did the girl understand that? A hidden camera is installed in the corner of the hall. Also, that dancing girl has a smartwatch on her wrist. See? It's morning. Bob leaves his house and goes to the beach. The sun is peeking over the horizon. The sea is calm. There's no wind. Bob sits down on the sand, closes his eyes, and begins to meditate. Several people come up to Bob and sit down next to him to meditate too. Bob opens his eyes, sees them, and realizes that something's wrong with these people. But what? Look at Bob, and now at how these people are sitting. They aren't touching the sand. Their bodies are half an inch above the ground. Okay, now let's check and see how many correct answers you got. 0 to 3 points. Don't get upset. There's no need to try to find stuff everywhere. Sometimes you just need to trust your intuition. 4 to 7 points. More practice, more riddles, more logical tasks. And next time, you'll definitely get better results. 8 to 11 points. Oh, not bad, but sometimes you probably were inattentive. 12 to 15 points. Wow, nobody can fool you. You can always figure out the truth. You're great, but not the best of the best yet. 16 points. Whoa! You are the king of riddles. You always remain attentive to details. And also, you have awesome intuition.
Jack is in a cold cell. There's only ground under his feet. In the cell, there is one window, but it's impossible to escape through it. It's located too high above the floor. There are no stairs and no chairs, just a shovel. The man needs to get out of the cell as quickly as possible. He can't dig a tunnel and go deep underground, since the walls are really thick. Jack would get exhausted long before finishing digging his way to freedom. Can you guess the easiest way out of the cell? He needs to dig a large hole in the ground and use the dirt to make a small hill. He can then climb it and reach the window. Ava has been wandering through the desert for days. She's tired, thirsty, and hungry. Finally, she arrives at an oasis. But to get to it, she needs to choose one of 3 paths. At the entrance of the first path, there's a huge dragon with 2 heads. In the middle of the second path, there are hungry tigers. And the third path is swarming with thousands of scorpions. Which path should she choose? The first path. Dragons aren't real, so she'll be safe there. Jenny walks into a cafe and orders a cappuccino.
Hello.
The cashier tells her it's her lucky day. She'll give Jenny her cappuccino for free if she manages to answer a riddle correctly.
Yes!
The cashier says, there are 2 buckets filled with water all the way to the top. The buckets are of the same height, but the temperature of the water inside the first bucket is 25 degrees Celsius, while in the second bucket it's 25 degrees Fahrenheit. If a person drops a coin in each bucket at the same time, which coin will hit the bottom of the bucket first? It takes Jenny a few minutes to answer the riddle, but she gets it right. Can you guess what she answered? She said that first, one of the coins would hit the bottom of the first bucket. It has to do with the state of the water in each bucket. At 25 degrees Celsius, water is liquid, while at 25 degrees Fahrenheit, it turns into ice. Emily finally went to Paris. On her first day, she bought a baguette and some cheese and went to the park to have a picnic. She sat down and cut the baguette into 4 pieces. A random person next to her said, "Hey, it took you 12 seconds to do that." Can you figure out how long it would take Emily to cut the baguette into 8 pieces? It would take 28 seconds. Here's how it works. To cut a baguette into 4 pieces, she needs to make 3 cuts. If it takes her 12 seconds to make 3 cuts, it means that she makes 1 cut in 4 seconds. Now, if she wants to cut the baguette into 8 pieces, she'll need to make 7 cuts. So, 7 cuts, 4 seconds each, 28 seconds. Every Sunday, Mrs. Moore gives her 4 daughters some pocket money. Half of the entire amount goes to the eldest daughter, Brianna. The second sister, Amy, gets half of the amount Brianna gets. Kate gets 1/6 of the total amount. And the remaining $10 goes to the youngest daughter, Nikki. How much money does Mrs. Moore give to her daughters? Once again, Brianna gets half of the money. Amy gets half of the half, which means 1/4 of the original sum. And Kate gets 1/6. They are all some fraction of 12, so Brianna gets 6/12, Amy gets 3/12, and Kate gets 3/12. Together, this adds up to 11/12, which means that Nikki gets 1/12, which equals $10. The whole sum is 12/12, which is $120. Brianna gets $60, Amy receives $30, Kate is given $20. Hey, if I were Nikki, I would complain. Miss Taylor is the owner of a boutique that produces and sells expensive ceramics. On a Friday, when the working week was almost finished, she went to put the day's earnings in the safe and was shocked to find out that the money was gone. Someone had stolen it. Miss Taylor suspected it was one of her workers. She asked each of them what they'd been doing that day. Sloan, the sales manager, said she'd been looking for new clients. Jake, the potter, said he always made 1 cup a day, and he showed all the cups he had finished that week. Lily, the designer, said she'd been working, but she also admitted she hadn't really been productive that day because of some family issues. Who lied? Jake. There are 5 working days in a regular week. The man said he made 1 mug a day, but he only showed 4 mugs. It means he missed 1 day of work. Probably the day he needed to steal Miss Taylor's money. 2 cars, blue and red, started traveling on the same highway at the same time. The blue car is going at a speed of 60 miles per hour, and the red car is going 40 miles per hour. However, after some time on the road, they come across each other at one point. How is this possible? Well, they're traveling in opposite directions, so eventually they would pass each other anyway. Carl was a rich man who had 2 grown-up sons, Ethan and Christian. They lived in a big mansion. One day, Carl noticed that his expensive ancient vase was missing. The only people who were at home the night before were his sons. He didn't want to involve the police, so he decided to interrogate the guys himself. He saw Ethan driving through the gates. He was back from his daily visit to the gym. The young man said that the night before, he'd been practicing guitar and hadn't noticed anything strange. Then, Carl met Christian near the pool. The guy told his father, "Now I understand. Yesterday, I saw Ethan putting a box in the back seat of his car. It must have been the vase." But Carl immediately realized it was Christian who had taken the vase. How did he know? Because Ethan drives a sports car. It only has 2 seats. He couldn't have put the box in the back seat. It means Christian is lying. A math teacher told his students about Roman numerals. After that, he asked them to draw just one line and turn 9 into 6. His only condition was that the students couldn't take their pens off the paper until the line was finished. Mark was the first one to complete the task. How did he do it? He drew the letter S in front of I, X, and got 6. There's a patch of magic grass in a field, and it doubles in size every day. If on day 1 it's just a patch of grass, on day 2 it's twice bigger, and so on. It'll take 10 days for the grass to cover the entire field. How long will it take the grass to cover half of the field? The patch of grass doubles in size every day, so on the 9th day, half of the field will be covered with it. In a kingdom far, far away, an old king lived. The king was worried he had no heirs to his throne. One day, he came up with an idea. He decided to give each child in his kingdom a seed. He promised to make the child who grew the most beautiful plant his heir. 3 months later, thousands of children came to the palace. All of them had amazingly tall green plants in their hands, but one girl had a pot that was empty. However, she was the one the king chose to be the future queen. What made him do so? It turned out that the king had given the children fake seeds. The girl turned out to be the only honest kid.
Vicky is having a reality show audition today. But first, she needs to fix her car quickly to get there. 3 mechanics offer their help, but 2 of them are fake. Can you spot who exactly? The first person is wearing an expensive watch. It's too risky to wear them while working. And the third person's nails are way too long for this job, so Vicky should choose the second guy. Vicky has just had an amazing audition. The manager says, and finally, one last question. Can you spot the exact center of this table? How should Vicky answer this question? Vicky should put her finger confidently at the supposed center of the table and say, "This is the center point." Afterwards, the manager may ask, how do you know if this is the exact center? In this case, Vicky can reply, "Your last question was the previous one, so I don't have to answer further." The manager just wanted to check how attentive Vicky is. The reality show takes place on an island. Vicky gets her first task. She needs to find a village with other contestants using this map. Vicky has to enter the maze at the left bottom and leave it through the exit point. There are 2 rules. She can go through one circle more than once, and she can move only by exchanging green and yellow circles. Can you help Vicky out? Here's the right way out. Vicky breaks through the maze and finds herself in a creepy room. The door behind her slams shut. To move on to the next level of the game, Vicky has to unlock this door. Can you help her crack this 7-digit code? There's an inscription on the door which says, "The 7 C's." Vicky should try to think literally and enter 7 C's. Vicky opens the door and continues her journey. There are 3 ways to reach the village, but each path is hiding some danger. There's a creepy mummy hiding in the forest on the first path. The second path leads through a castle of a spooky vampire. And there's a hungry zombie waiting on the third road. Can you help Vicky choose the safest option? She should take the second path. The sun is shining, which means the vampire is sleeping. Finally, Vicky reaches the village, and here's her next task. Vicky and Nikki must hang on this beam for 5 minutes. Vicky has a fire under her legs, while Nikki has metal spikes that are moving randomly underneath him. Can you predict who's more likely to win? Vicky, take a closer look at the fire. There's a kerosene barrel under her feet, so the fire will go out in 20 seconds. To find treasures, Vicky has to unlock the final door. She needs to push one of these 4 buttons. But she only has one chance. What would you suggest? Vicky has to choose the red button. The symbols on the door are hints. Each of the 4 products can be red colored. After all the adventures, Vicky is finally having lunch. Can you spot anything odd here? Hello! Vicky gets a bed in a dormitory room. She will share it with 4 other contestants. Vicky drops her backpack on the bed and goes to the toilet. In a few minutes, she returns and finds out that someone had stolen her phone. Vicky questions all her roommates. Sam says, "I had a meeting in the lobby. My friend can confirm that." Fiona says, "I was washing my hair in the shower, so I didn't see or hear anything." Diana says, "I spent the last 20 minutes at the laundromat. I came back just now." And Mia says, "Sorry, I was doing exercises on the balcony, so I didn't watch your stuff." Who's lying? Fiona. She said she had just washed her hair, but her curls are dry. The Greens' housemaid Stacy forgets to close the window at night. In the morning, she finds out that some valuables had been stolen. Stacy calls the police. The detective checks the crime scene and puts together a list of all stolen items. Take a look at the picture. Can you tell what was stolen? The candlestick, music box, and vase. The detective interviews the Greens' neighbors. He asks, "Did you see anything suspicious last night?" Maya replies, "Yes, I saw a man in a black hat." Peter says, "I saw a suspicious woman with a big box by the Greens' house." Liam says, "I saw someone dressed as a dragon, and another guy with a hiking backpack." And Will says, "I saw a strange masked man near the house 20 minutes after the Greens went to bed." Who seems suspicious? Will. How did he know when the family went to bed? Bob's parents are going on vacation for 2 weeks and leave him alone. His father says, "Bobby, be very careful. No parties at home." But Bob throws parties almost every night. One night, his friends notice a car and yell, "Looks like your dad's car is here, bro!" Oh, no. All the guests clean up the mess as quickly as they can and hide. Parents arrive early and realize that Bob had a party. How? There are 4 joysticks and a pizza slice under the sofa. Spelled forwards, it's what you do every day. Spelled backwards, it's something you hate. Can you guess this word? The correct answer is live. This is Mary. All her hats are white except 2. Also, all her hats are red except 2. And all her hats are black except 2. How many hats does Mary have? Just 3, one of each color. Kate enters the local supermarket to get some fruits. There's an intelligent glass pane installed in the fridge. This glass pane allows cherries and apples to pass through. At the same time, it keeps grapes and melons inside. Can you figure out which rule the grass pane is following? The glass pane only allows the fruits with double letters in their names to pass through. Can you spot anything odd in this picture? Too cool for winter. Kelly visits her bestie, Sarah, but Sarah is crying. Kelly asks, "What happened?" Sarah doesn't say anything. She just shows Kelly a phone chat with her boyfriend. Can you tell what made Sarah so upset? He lied to Sarah about his dog's illness to hang out elsewhere. Take a look at the reflection in his sunglasses. Seems like he's chilling at the beach. Billy enters a dining room. Right away, he spots that someone had prepared a prank. What about you?
Oh.
This chair only has 3 legs. Lily gets a job as a flight attendant. This is her first flight from Hawaii to Mexico City. She's greeting the guests in the aircraft, but 3 passengers on the flight are not humans. Can you spot who? This lady doesn't cast a shadow, therefore she's not a real human. And this one is dressed up too warmly for the hot weather. The guy over here is drinking a weird green liquid with bugs, which is kinda cringy for real human beings. Jill is walking in the park. Suddenly, a street dealer in a mask offers her an original golden watch for $20. Jill agrees, pays, and puts it on right away. Soon, 3 people approach Jill to claim the watch. Mike says, "This watch has belonged to my family for ages. I lost it near the ice cream van." Sheila says, "Someone stole my golden watch today. I was sitting on a ladder and fell asleep for a while. When I woke up, the watch was gone." Stefan says, "I also lost my watch today. I think I dropped it on the 3rd floor of this coffee shop." Can you help Jill return the watch to its actual owner? The coffee shop doesn't have the 3rd floor, and Mike's hand tattoo is identical to the dealer's, so it's the same person. So the watch belongs to Sheila.